Imagine you're going for a bushwalk and something catches your eye on the ground. It might be partly buried, so you dig it up just a little bit, you look at it in your hand, and you realise it's more interesting perhaps than just the average rock. In fact, it might even be a fossil, or maybe it's some sort of ancient Indigenous artefact. So if that is the case, what are you supposed to do with it? Sally Hurst is a master's student at Macquarie University, and she's been pondering this question as part of a project called Found a Fossil. Sally, good morning.
Thanks so much for having me.
I've got to ask, have you ever found a fossil?
I have not, unfortunately. I did grow up in a farm in New South Wales, so every time I'm at the creek, I always have a look and see if I can find interesting rocks, but it's more of a case of not yet instead of not at all.
Well, it wouldn't be at all out of the question for someone around the Pilbara or the Kimberley to come across a fossil or an artefact. So the question is, what are you meant to do if you do come across one?
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty confusing to try and find this information, so that was a lot of the aim of the project, to try and clarify this. So for fossils, when you're in and around WA, if it's on your own property, but you basically own it, we'd love it if you could show it to a museum or a university, or even like the Geological Survey of WA, because it could be a brand new species. It could be something pretty special that we've never seen before. And then for Indigenous finds, it's a little bit different. They could be a sacred object or something, again, pretty special. So you want to try to avoid touching it or moving it. And again, just have a phone call with the people who are in charge of this. So that could be the Aboriginal Heritage Council of WA. I think they sit under the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage, or even just have a phone call to your local traditional owners or your local Aboriginal community and see if they are aware of the site or aware of what you found, and they can probably tell you a bit more about it.
So are these laws and rules are pretty clear cut about what you can and can't do?
Yes and no. So with fossils, it's pretty tricky because no one really knows where they sit. So are they like a gem and a mineral that you go mining for? Are they more like sort of cultural heritage goods? And they're all kind of protected under different laws. So if you were to Google this yourself, like I found a fossil in WA, what do I do? You would go down a rabbit hole of 10 different websites telling you 17 different things, and it's pretty confusing. So again, if you're on your own land and you found a fossil, no worries, not an issue. If you are looking to go looking for fossils on like Crown land, you do actually need something called a miner's right. It's just like a permit to go looking for them. And you can only do manual digging. You can't dig with a machine or anything. And then for Indigenous finds, the rules have, or the legislation has been updated pretty recently. So in just last year, they created the Aboriginal Cultural Heritage Act of 2021. But a lot of those rules haven't actually come into effect yet. And so again, it's this confusing thing of, okay, do I follow the old people who I meant to contact? Do I contact this new team, which doesn't actually exist yet? So I've tried to make everything pretty clear cut and simple on the website, so hopefully that will guide people in the right direction.
And you're also, I guess, looking at this confusion. You have a survey out at the moment. What are you asking?
I'm basically asking that if you ever did discover a fossil or an Indigenous artefact, what would you actually do with it? Would you tell someone? Would you, call your local archaeologist that you might know down the road? Would you get in touch with your local Aboriginal community? And what might stop you from contacting someone? So I think for a lot of farmers and miners, they have a paddock to plough. They don't want to stop activities. So how can they, continue with their livelihoods but still protect some of this heritage material? So yeah, trying to hear from the Australian community and raise a bit of awareness about fossils and artefacts.
And that's the thing, because I know I mentioned bushwalking at the start, but it's not necessarily bushwalkers who are the most likely to come across a fossil, as you talk about farmers and pastoralists, miners as well. So I guess, are you looking to hear from all those sorts of groups as part of the survey?
Yeah, absolutely. It's open to every single person in Australia over the age of 10. So, yeah, definitely those key groups of farmers, miners, bushwalkers. But, if you own a cafe or you like gardening outside, if you like looking for birds, like just about everyone in Australia. I'd love to hear from them.
How can they get in touch?
So they can jump onto the Found a Fossil website. It's literally foundafossil.com. And as soon as they jump on, there should be a little pop-up which asks them to do the survey, or there's a tab right front and centre which says the survey, which they can click on and, let me know their opinion.
Sally, I hope you do one day find a fossil, because at least you'll know what to do with it. Thanks for having a chat this morning.
Absolutely. Yeah, here's hoping.
Sally Hurst, a master's student at Macquarie University. That website, foundafossil.com.